This is Philly Talk with Philly Mike. Talking sixes in the bird gang, that's I like. Competition, we ain't scared, yeah, that's what we like. Win or lose, you know we showing up and we gon' fight. You see we strive for the sky every day that go by. And every single week we screaming fly, eagles fly. This is Philly Talk with Philly Mike, yeah. This is Philly Talk with Philly Mike, yeah.
What is going on, everybody? I go by Philly Mike, host of the Philly Talk podcast, but we are here with a special guest, Mr. 500, or I should say 50K still. Appreciate you for coming on. How you feeling with a game this week?
Are you kidding, man? It's like Christmas. It's like Christmas. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's like Christmas, man. You know how preseason is, right? We'll be all up for preseason. You're going to be all pumped up, ready. We're going to get to the first quarter. They're going to go out. They're going to have one series. The starters are going to be out. And then we're all going to be like, dude, when's preseason going to end? We're ready for the regular season. But, yeah, man, I'm good with it. I'm ready to go. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, please let a preseason game come. And then as soon as you realize that, yeah, we wanted to see the depth, and then we got some interesting battles to say, but we just want to get to the regular season, get the good stuff going. I'm glad that they cut one off, right? It's only 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, only 3 now instead of 4. That fourth one was always brutal, but now the third game is brutal, because they won't play anybody. I don't even know if we're going to play anybody, let's be honest. Anyways, we haven't played anybody the last 2 years, and it hasn't hurt us at all. So, I think we'll see Hurts one series. I think we'll see the starters one series, and then that's it. See you in the regular season. I really do. I think we won't see a lot of starters. Fortunately for us, this team is so entertaining and interesting with all the matchups going on. You can't go wrong,
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why I feel like maybe past the first preseason game, I won't be as ready for the season to start, because there are some good questions I want to get to the bottom of, to say the least. And we know Nick Sirianni has been more protective of his players, and so far it's paid off. So I don't question anything that Nick Sirianni does anymore. But how do you feel? We've heard multiple reports. We'll go a little bit about today, but just your general consensus on just how these rookies have been forming, some of the questions at linebacker, the 2 new additions, just all that stuff. How do you feel? What was day 9 today? Was day 9 training camp?
I've lost count. I've lost count. Yeah, man, my feelings right now are like, I feel really good about where this team is. If you look at the rookies, right, like everything we're hearing about Jalen Carter, and this is coming from, like, you're reading things that are coming from guys in the front office, players on the team. You look at Jalen Carter, man, the guy sounds like he's going to be everything we needed. It sounds like it's a second coming of Jerome Brown. That's what it seems like. And then Nolan Smith was a steal. Obviously, he looks like he's going to have a big impact on this team as well. And then you get guys like Steen and Sidney Brown, who I think are going to contribute. So I feel great about the rookies. I do think we have some situations going on with linebacker and safety and wide receiver. If you look at everything we've done, like with bringing in players, we keep bringing in players to work out wide receiver, safety. So obviously there's something going on there. And then the linebacking situation there, obviously we're not comfortable with, and they went out and brought 2 guys in, much like they did when they brought in Joseph and Sue. I see it like the same situation. So I do think we got some things to watch very closely in preseason.
Yeah, I was listening to Fran Duffy talk, and he showed or he spoke about a play, probably the best rep he's seen from Jalen Carter. It was against Lane Johnson. He just, beat him. It wasn't a sack or nothing. It was a run play. I believe DeAndre Swift was carrying the ball, but, absolutely showed the ability that he's done in college, in the NFL, against one of the best guys you can go against. And I think, we had Milton Williams on GOAT Talk, and he really straight said that going against the best offensive line day in and day out, I'm not trying to
No.
say these other guys are bad, but they not our O-line. Like, he literally
Oh,
said
no.
that. We didn't ask
No.
him or nothing. And so that whole iron sharpen iron thing is much more than just content creators saying it. Like, it really works. And that's why we love the matchups. Our receivers versus our DBs, and now our D line versus our O-line, and it proved 70 plus sacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like if, and I've said this before, it's like if you're playing Madden, right, and you're playing Madden on all Madden, then you go back to like the easy thing, whatever the easy thing, it's going to be a lot easier. Everything's going to be slower. Think about it. I mean, you got your defensive line is going up in practice every day against the best offensive line in football. Your best offensive line is going up against one of the best defensive lines in football. Your 2 wide receivers are going up against 2 great corners. Your corners are going up against 2 great wide receivers. When they get to any game, most any week, it's a breeze compared to what they've dealt with all week. That's a big thing. People underestimate how important that is, because that is a big deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, the only difference is, and I think AJ spoke about it when he was asked how much is he ready for joint practices. He's ready to see the other players, because as much as iron sharpens iron, Darius Slay done seen him run all the routes. He knows the playbook, so it's a lot harder. So you want to fine-tune your stuff against your excellent pairing, like DB versus wide receiver, O-line versus D-line. But it's good to go out there and beat up on some. Who we got? I think it's the Browns and the Colts for joints.
I don't remember who the joints practices are. I know we had the Browns last year.
I think it's again Browns and Colts.
Yeah, I think the Colts is definitely one. I can't remember what the other one was, but I mean, dude, they practiced. You remember last year, because we were all giving them crap. We were like, "What the hell are you doing? We're getting a preseason. We're not playing anybody." But all week at practice, they're like, "No, we were going at it all week. We don't need to play anybody during a preseason game." And we all felt gypped off. But I mean, it seemed like if you look how the Eagles came out, how can you say that anything they've done in the preseason has been bad? So I mean, I like you, I trust it, man. Just go with it.
Yeah, I said this on Twitter, especially with the Cowboy fans and other fans trying to laugh at us because we got to go off of tweets and they get to go off live footage and blah blah blah. Right? I said, look, it might be a little frustrating to be an Eagles fan now because we don't get to see nothing, but it will pay off in February. You know what I mean? We won't be complaining down the stretch of the season.
People, you're on Twitter. I've never seen 2 fan bases, the Cowboys and the Giants, like pick their stuff specifically. They want to get out there. Like they only pick the very best stuff that happens. Cowboys ignore anything that is bad that happens. They act like it never existed. And then you get the Giants, who love to put up statistics. Like, I can't believe what the Giants fans put up. Not all Giant fans, but dude, they got statistics of Daniel Jones versus Jalen Hurts. Yeah. And they're showing all these statistics of Daniel Jones, and they're leaving out like rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. And then they're trying to compare. It's like these people are delusional, dude. Both those fan bases are delusional.
It's crazy. Twitter is a messy place. Shout out to Yeet with the $5 super chat. He said Howie is going to tell Sirianni to attack Patrick Queen to elevate him and hopefully bring his value down Saturday. Hey, interesting. I know 500 loves the conspiracies and you got the what do you say for Howie? Not Howie Vision, but calculating the cornbread and all that. So
calculate the calculation of cornbread, man. Good cornbread is it's like a math equation. Everything's got to be perfect. It's got to be figured out. And yeah, so my math teacher, I had a math teacher, said calculate the calculations of the cornbread, and I've always picked up that. So that's what I always say now.
Yeah, I like that. And you never know what slick moves Howie has. We will get to see Patrick Queen at least in action a little bit. Again, it depends on how much his organization plays him. I know the Eagles are going to be more hesitant with playing our guys, but it should be interesting. And here we go real quick. A Giant fan in here. The best O-line in football, and Hurts threw 22 touchdowns. As you said, picks. He's forgetting that Hurts, the coach called some runs for Hurts, and he got 13 in that category, which makes 35, which you can add all your stuff up, and it doesn't equal 22. Like, Daniel Jones rushing and passing doesn't equal that. So,
what would be a more accurate statistic with that If he really go back and look at the quarters played, because how many games last year did the Eagles blow teams out by the halftime? And they weren't trying to throw touchdown passes. They weren't trying to they were trying to run the clock out. Matter of fact, they didn't even know how to win early in the year. We were up 20-0 on Dallas. That could have been 42-7, but we took our foot off the gas. Like, I bet you if you went by quarters, I bet you Jalen Hurts' quarters, how many touchdown passes he throws in like meaningful quarters is way higher than Daniel Jones. They're trying to make an argument with a statistic that just doesn't work.
Correct. Look, let's keep it the Giants, right? Jalen Hurts had like $145, $150 in the first half of the divisional round playoff game, but because the score was 30-3, right? Like, he gets laughed at for only throwing for $160. Well, guess what?
I know.
He threw $145 of them in the first half. He didn't need to do anything else in the second half.
Yeah, it only took 140 yards to beat you. That was it. You know?
Exactly. And 509 snaps the Eagles played this season or the past season with a 10-point lead. That dictates how you call plays again in the second half. And the second closest team was far away. That's 509 snaps with a 10+ point lead. Of course, you're not going to be, like Herbert, who's, trailing at halftime and having to score 25 in the second half to even come back and whatnot. So it is what it is. But with this harder schedule, and I say this as I'm not stupid, it is a harder schedule. I don't mean I'm nervous or scared about it, but it is. Like, I went over it with somebody, I forgot, I think it was BG Bergang, and I know he's the most positive. He's the guy that says like 17-0 until proven otherwise, and I ain't mad at that philosophy, right? That being said, we started kind of getting a little argument, like a friendly argument, as a fact that, like, okay, our toughest game last year during the season, you would say would have been who?
Toughest game last year. Well, man, that's a good question.
Minus the division. Minus the division.
Toughest game last year. Who did we play again in the AFC? What division did we play?
We played the Colts, Texans, Titans, Jags.
So
the Jags were a little tough. They made the playoffs.
Jags got better at the end of the year, even though they came in that game. Weren't they like 3-0 or something? Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember what I would consider the toughest game.
Regardless, if we wanted to say the Jags, if we wanted to say whatever, my whole philosophy was there's like 7 teams that were playing out of division this year that is tougher than our toughest matchup last year. And again, that's not me saying we only got to the Super Bowl because of our schedule. No, because we handled the teams the right way. We blew the Giants out. We blew Washington out the first time. We blew the Tennessee Titans. We blew out the teams that we needed to blow out. So I still think that we could compete with the best teams, and we're going to. But this schedule will require an aggressive offensive game plan most of the times. And with that being said, numbers will transfer. So the box score watchers who say Jalen Hurts threw 20 touchdowns and they forget that he missed 2 games, sat out a bunch of fourth quarters. He didn't throw for 4K. Well, guess what? The numbers are going to happen this year. You know what I mean? It's just going to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, dude, there were a lot of games last year where we were like, game was over at halftime. I mean, it was over at halftime. And even if he stayed in till like the fourth quarter, they were just running the ball. I mean, this was a problem early on. If you remember early on, we came out against Detroit, huge lead at halftime, almost blew it. Minnesota, huge lead at halftime. Dallas, huge lead at halftime. And we didn't know how to win. Like, we didn't know how to put teams away. And we were coming out and taking our foot off the gas way too early. And these teams were crawling back into it. I thought they got much better with that at the end of the year. However, this is why I don't take my foot off the gas. If it's 72-0, I'm going to just keep coming out throwing. When there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, that's it. Like that would be my philosophy. But you're right. We do have better teams that we have to play this year. What's interesting though about this is that most of those teams are in the AFC. So when the playoffs arrive, we only have to beat one of them. We don't have to beat more than one of them.
True. And again, we can still find ourselves in a pretty favorable playoff home run. Like, again, We do what we do. We get first round bye. All it takes is for one of them wild card teams to knock somebody off, like the Giants did last year, and then we're back to play the Giants again to go into the NFC
I mean, are you
Championship
really
or something like that.
scared of the Giants? I mean, what the Giants to me didn't improve so much that I'm scared of them. I mean, I think they needed offensive help on the outside. Like I think they needed an outside wide receiver, and they got Waller. He's okay. They got some young guys like they drafted that might be good. But going into this year, the Giants I don't think are that much better. I honestly don't.
Yeah, I think they're similar, and again, I think they're gonna have to go through some growing pains before we even discuss them. And again, everybody wants to talk about 1 year wonders. Let's see Daniel Jones completely with whatever he got going on over there.
He had 15 touchdowns. He stinks.
$40 million. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's 15 touchdowns. They act like he did something. He stinks. Oh, Jalen Hurts only had 22 touchdowns. Yeah, but you ignore the rushing touchdowns, and then you ignore all the times where in the second half of the game that he wasn't trying to throw touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
I think if you add Jones rushing touchdowns, I think it's still only 21 or something like that.
Jones stinks. Jones, look, okay, they tried to make a big deal about him beating Minnesota. I mean, did everybody not pick the Giants because Minnesota, was not going to win a playoff game with Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins can't win a playoff game. He can't win a big game. So that was no surprise. And then they came into Philly and they got curb stomped, man. I mean, it wasn't even close. And that, you know how hard it is? They say it's very hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. It's hard. The last time is always the hardest. And the Giants, they didn't even show up.
It was the worst beatdown they got, right? The red hot Giants. And like you were saying, the Vikings down the stretch was allowing every team to put 45 on them. Yeah. I mean, it was a disaster. Yeah. But going back to camp real quick, how do you feel about Reed Blankenship being that locked in safety? Like, as much as we were talking about, it's a free-for-all between Terrell Edmonds, Reed Blankenship, Cindy Brown. Kavon Wallace has been coming into the mix. He's been reportedly playing good. I know.
Is that a good thing? Or see, I said this before in my videos. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Is it because Kavon Wallace is showing up, or is it because we got a Giants problem at the safety position? Like, out of all the positions that we lost a player, I feel like the safety position is the one position that I don't feel comfortable with. Like, I even feel comfortable with the linebackers.
Because of the additions.
Because here's how I see the linebackers. Kaiser White disappeared in the second half of the year. He was non-existent. TJ Edwards was good, but TJ Edwards, I mean, he didn't get a lot of money to go to Chicago. The Eagles could have paid him. They really like Nakobe Dean, so I have to assume that they think Nakobe Dean is going to be a good replacement for TJ Edwards. And we still might have a problem at linebacker. We had that. I look at it like last year. But you're losing CJ Gardner-Johnson, who made an impact. He definitely made an impact, and I don't think that we replaced it. Javon Hargrave, we got Jalen Carter. But if you take Jalen Carter and you take Jordan Davis in shape and healthy, if you take those guys and you combine their statistics, I bet you they'll be more impactful than Hargrave was. So I feel like we've replaced that. I feel like the linebackers is a push, and then I feel like the safety spot is that one spot. I just don't know.
So you don't feel comfortable that right now Reed Blank? Like, let me ask you this: who do you think the 2 pairing will be, and what is give me your 2 pairing for week 1 starters? I think we will see some 3 safety packages, some big nickel, and give me your 2 starters and give me your confidence level in Reed Blankenship and what he's shown from last year to this year and all the reporting.
Now, when I talk about the safety spot, I actually like Reed Blankenship. Like, I feel pretty comfortable with him. I was watching the NFC Championship game again, and man, he hit Deebo Samuel and caused a fumble, and I forgot all about that. And I said, I was like, yeah, this kid's pretty good. So I feel comfortable with him. It's that other safety spot that I worry about. He's getting all the first team reps at safety, so I look at him as a lock. I think the best case scenario, honestly, is we want Sidney Brown to take that spot. I would like it to be Blankenship and Brown. I'd like those would be my starters, but I would not be surprised, dude. I swear, if there's one position I think we would make a trade for before linebacker, I think it's a safety. I could see the Eagles pulling the trigger in preseason for safety.
Well, Howie Roseman, I think every year, like he's always been high risk, high reward. Not really high risk or high reward. He just been aggressive as it pertains to trades and just fine tune his roster. But I think he hears the narrative. Like every time he does it, and we applaud him for it, it just makes him that much more hungry to do it again because he hears it and he likes it, and he keeps his ears to the streets. That's why he straight up said at the Texans game last year, "You forgive me." Remember?
Oh, that was awesome, dude. Let me tell you something, dude. That could have easily been me. Like I look at that guy there, that could have totally been me for shit I've said about Howie Roseman. So yeah, that was funny. But I mean, Howie does this like almost every preseason. If you think about, like, go back to 2017, remember Jordan Matthews got shipped off. He went to Buffalo. We got what's his face, the corner. He's slipping my mind right now. And we went on that Super Bowl run. Last year, we get
what's
Carter
his name?
Johnson. Yeah, it's slipping my mind. I can't remember.
Opposite of Jalen Mills, Ronald Darby.
Yeah. So we get Darby before the run. In 2016, we traded Bradford. And then last year,
did we trade Jordan Matthews? Matthews was in that trade.
That was 2017. Yeah. That was the year we went to the Super Bowl. We got Ronald Darby back. Yeah, so we did that, and then last year you bring in, C.J. Gardner-Johnson before the season, like before training camp really started, like really early in it. I can't remember exactly when, but it was like around this time of year. So I could see it again.
And then Bradbury.
Bradbury was a late signing too. So I could see it. I tell you, dude, the guy I watching out for is Jeremy Chin. Like I think that if they trade him, I think the Eagles will jump all over that.
I was on him in that draft period. That was like early YouTube me. Like maybe my year. I'm like a year and a half in, and I was on him. Again, we got what's his name?
Hurts.
And Jalen Hurts. So at the end of the day, I ain't complaining no more. But yes, I was looking at Jeremy Chin. I was looking at Zach Bond. I think a linebacker at that point. There was a corner I was looking at. We were looking at Denzel Mims.
Oh, I was a big believer in Denzel Mims. What a joke.
What a joke. Yeah, I totally agree.
But the thing is it did, there was a big fight, and it was reported, there was a big fight within the front office. It was either Chin or Hurts, and how he decided to go with Hurts. But they really liked Jeremy Chin. So if the opportunity becomes available that, and with Frank Reich being the coach in Carolina, and if Carolina decides they want to get him off the books because they're going to have to pay him a lot of money next year, I think that's a guy that the Eagles would jump all over in a second.
As an interesting prospect that I wasn't even thinking of, to be honest. But yes, you're right. The Eagles did like him. But speaking of fighting, when I advertised this on Twitter, or at least posted about going live with you, I said, come join Philly 500 and myself to talk about our favorite player, Derek Barnett, and some Eagle news.
Oh,
how do you feel with the "it's always him"? Twitter went.
Always him.
It should have been trending on Twitter as soon as the fight broke out, and they were reporting that Landon Dickerson gave him put him on his backside. He comes up and pushes him down. It's always him. How do you feel about that? Look, he couldn't even wait a week to preseason. He only needed to wait a couple more days to get a penalty he does in a camp. How you feel about Derek Barnett and that scrap and all of it?
I think I need to go on blood pressure medicine, dude, because last year, we didn't have all these crazy penalties and personal fouls at bad times. Now you got, Derek Barnett is back. It's always him. We've heard nothing about him. I don't care what anybody says, nothing about him all camp. And then boom, it's a foul. It's a penalty. He's getting in fights. I think it's big trouble, dude. I think we need to get rid of him. I think he stinks. I want nothing to do with him. I want them to get rid of him. He's not going to help us. He's not going to have 5 sacks this year. Not going to have 5.
Yeah.
I bet he has 5 penalties, though.
he does have more in the last couple years. What was that stat? I forgot the exact number, but
His
it's like how
career,
many?
he has more penalties than sacks. In his
Yeah, that's
career, he's got
frustrating.
more
And
penalties
again,
than
like
sacks.
the only way I was willing to be okay with him on the rosters was because I knew how stacked we were at the defensive line. This was last year when we brought him back. I was upset. I think we did a live stream like the very next day or something. We were
Yeah.
just like very
Mhm.
bad. And like I think it was a big panel one, and you kept going back. Anybody on the panel who said it was okay, you were like, it's not okay. You were really upset.
Oh, I was, like I thought we were done with him, and I don't want to see the guy get injured or anything like that. Like, like it's not personal. Like I'm sure he's a great guy, but man, when it comes to a player, he's very frustrating. This is what I don't like is when people let him off the hook. Like this is a first round pick. We're not talking about a fifth round pick. We're not talking about a sixth round pick. He's a first round pick, and to me, I'm not going to start saying, "Oh, well, I'm okay with 6 sacks or 5 sacks when he's a first round pick." You got to play like a first rounder, and if you're not playing like a first rounder, then you're a waste. That's how I see it.
No, I totally agree when he was still on that first round rookie contract, but now he's getting pennies to the dollar, ain't he? Like we did restructure him, re-sign him. Then we did
I
something
know.
with him.
I don't understand it. Like I still don't understand it. Like, dude, Yannick Ngakwe was sitting out there for all that time. There's a guy 9.5 going to get you 9 sacks a year. I'd rather have him.
Yeah, and like you said, with him being injured last year, I kind of slowly forgot that we brought him back for again pennies on a dollar. I'm okay with him again. One of the reasons I was okay because he was so deep on the depth chart, he wouldn't be coming into the game to get these major penalties. But again, showing that same thing that's been your Achilles heel, at least with the Eagles fan base, with this new coaching staff doing it already. And again, scraps happen, but it can't happen from you. You're the one who got to clean up your act. Is definitely frustrating. At this point, it's funny. And if Nick Sirianni was in front and center for it, then, it really might be that time. Like, remember, we go from 90 to 53. So he's still a possible cut candidate.
Man, I can't see them cutting him. I just can't see how he's doing that. I could see them trading him, but cutting him, I don't know. I mean, I do not know. I mean, we'll see. Let's see what he does.
Howie's did so. See, here's the thing. I agree with you back in the day, Howie, where he was always making sure, like, I can't let the fan base believe that I gave up on this guy that I drafted. You know what I mean? But now he's done so much good that I think he like Rager was a guy that you thought he would keep on with for a while because it's like, I gotta prove it, or at least do something. And so the good he's done, I think allows him to say, forget the Rager. And you know what? Forget Barnett at this point. Going from 90 to 53, not being able to baby cut here, baby cut there. It might just be what we need to get him off the squad. Again, Patrick Johnson, that might be it right there. Because if Patrick Johnson didn't get hurt, he might have made the team over Barnett because he was having a good camp.
He's having a great camp.
But he got hurt.
How hurt is he? But how hurt is he though? Like they made it seem like Jeff McClain made it seem like this dude's career was over. Like, you know what I mean? They made it sound like it was so bad, and it wasn't nearly what they said. I don't know how long he's out for though, but
Me neither.
We'll see.
Real quick, shout out to Good Vibes with the $5 super chat. He said, "Is it Saturday yet? Can't wait to see some of the young guys." And I totally agree, especially because we didn't really get to see our own training camp. And so because we didn't get to see our own training camp, I just want to see Jalen Carter in front of another NFL grown man, and I want to see him put him on his backside. I want to see Nolan Smith just use his speed to just absolutely make a left and right tackle look silly. And again, even if it's second team left tackle, this is another guy who's never competed against you. And it's still, the upper echelon of talent. You're still going against some good people. And so I can't wait to see the youngsters and the depth pieces, right?
I just wonder how much they're going to play him. Like I expect that the starters to get one series and be done. And then you have your second string. And like, will they treat Carter and like Jordan Davis? Will they treat them like, like second or third stringers, or are they going to treat them like starters that can't get hurt? Because I think Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, for that matter, like I think those guys need snaps. I think they need snaps and they need to play. So I'm hoping we'll get to see them, but I don't know how much we will.
Well, that's the good part. We are high on Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and even a guy like Sidney
Oh yeah,
Brown. But if they're right now ranked on the depth chart behind Fletch and whoever, they might get some more snaps. Like at the end of the day, they can play a Jomo, Katavius Streets, Milton Williams. But like at the end of the day, I think we're gonna see a little bit more Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Sidney Brown, maybe Christian Ellis, Nicholas
well
Morrow,
that's
the guys we got it, who are having supposed good camps and stuff. We got to see against different
yeah.
jerseys.
Well, I think that linebacking spot is where, like, to me, that's going to be really intriguing because I don't think you can't hold anybody out. Who are you going to hold out? Like, they all need. We don't even know who's starting, and you got I don't think they're happy with Morrow. Like the whole Miles Jack and Cunningham signing, I don't think that has anything to do with Nakobe Dean. I think that
Agreed.
all has to do with Morrow. Morrow, because when Nakobe Dean got hurt, and I was saying this in my videos, I'm sure you probably were too. I said, man, once he goes out, you really realize how thin they are at linebacker. You got to go get somebody. And I think they looked at it almost like the way they treated Joseph and Sue, where they brought two guys in when they were thin at a position. And they're figuring somebody's going to wind up winning a
When
spot.
a Georgia Bulldog gets hurt, you got to bring in two replacements.
Bring in two, right? Exactly. But it worked, hell, it worked. But the thing is like, we don't know. Like, I assume Nakobe Dean's starting, but who else is starting at linebacker? Like, no, we don't know. It's not Morrow. Morrow sounds like he's losing reps. It sounds like Christian Ellis. He actually got all first team reps. So I think it's wide open. I think it's wide open. If I have to get, like, I'm very curious to see what Christian Ellis does.
Are you a believer? Are you a believer?
I don't know. I'm just in between. Because listen, we've heard a lot about him from OTAs back in the spring. It wasn't just like a week or two at camp. We've been hearing about him. So maybe, just maybe he's a guy. But I do think Miles Jack can still play. I think he still can play.
Did you see his
if I had
interview
to
today?
guess right now. No, I didn't see it. I didn't get a chance to see it.
He said, hey, life is crazy. You go from sitting on the couch playing Call of Duty to playing with the Super Bowl Eagles.
That's funny. That's funny. But I mean, like, I still think that kid could play. And I think that I think if I had to guess, I would say that Miles Jack and Nakobe Dean are your week one starters.
That's what a poll was. When I ran a poll to see who get more playing time. I didn't include Christian Ellis, so maybe they would have voted him a little bit. But I said, who think gets more playing time? Zach Cunningham, Miles Jack. The subs went Miles Jack. He also talked about that hit when he came here. He sees like this defense is similar to what Jacksonville had back in the day. We're talking about Saxonville, where their defense pretty much carried them to the AFC Championship because Blake Bortles was their quarterback. And so he said it's like the way the D line is structured and they get out the quarterback was like ours. The way the secondary was locked down, it's like ours. He said all they needed was the linebackers to clean stuff up, and he sees that here. And so I think he could be a nice, again, we're not going to ask a lot from our linebackers.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, people are like, oh, why did we get those two guys? Like, Ray Lewis isn't available in August. You're not going to go get a Pro Bowler, but you don't need one because you don't need. And Kaiser White is a perfect example. Kaiser White did nothing the whole second half of the season, but you didn't need him to. You just need the linebackers to be competent. You get competent guys in Jack and Cunningham, also guys that have experience and will be good in the locker room. I think if you get that from your linebackers and then you get what you have from your defensive line, I think your defense is fine. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I hear you. Joseph Harris, I don't know if he's a Cowboys fan or an Eagles fan wanting to poo-poo on the Cowboys, but I don't know. He said, talk about Dallas having 11 straight games before the playoffs. Well, I'll just say tough. I mean, like, I guess, I don't understand. Like, is he saying like after a bye week, he got, I don't know, did they play? At the end of the day, don't cry about your schedule. We got the hardest one. Don't cry about your schedule. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, the thing is, Dallas stinks. I mean, like, To me, if I was I don't see. What I don't understand about the Cowboys fans is like, how do you let your team off the hook? Like, how do you let your quarterback off the hook? Do you think that Dak Prescott, if he was in Philly, would not be killed right now for not being able to get past second round playoffs? He would. But every year, this guy doesn't do anything when it matters, and then they blame everybody else. I mean, to me, it's just I just don't understand how that team thinks. Like, I don't understand how that fan base thinks. I don't get it at all. To me, the Dallas Cowboys season doesn't even begin to the playoffs because I don't care what they do in the regular season. They could win every game in the regular season. They are not going to get out of the second round of playoffs. They will collapse.
Listen, I'm a Sixers fan, and same with you.
Yeah,
same thing. Yeah.
Sixers are the NBA. Yeah, they're Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. There's no question about it.
Season doesn't start to the playoffs until proven otherwise. Getting out of the second round. I totally agree. Some people would say, and I agree, our season won't start into the playoffs because that's how confident we are in our team, but for different reasons, starting to the playoffs.
Yeah, because we're capable of winning the whole thing. Dallas, to me, is never the same team, and Dak Prescott's never the same quarterback in the playoffs that he is during the regular season, even in his good years in the regular season. They just choke.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I will say that this got to be the most hyped Dallas team under Dak. Well, so look, I'm not nervous. I'm not scared of him. I think the NFC it boils down to Eagles, Niners, if they can get a quarterback in Dallas. I still got the Eagles number one. I mean, maybe Seattle, the Lions, one of them teams can, shock you, whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think they were better a couple years ago. When they had Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson, they had Gallup. I mean, I think Dak threw like 30-something touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was their best year.
And
that's when they had a 4K passer in Dak, 2K wide receivers, a 1K rusher, and then they had like the 10 sack guy and a 10 interception guy.
Yeah.
That was their best year. Yeah, you're right.
I think they might have been better then. If you look at right now, they just copied the Eagles. They just tried to rob our formula. Bring in another corner, get another receiver. They just tried to draft a defensive tackle. They do everything they want to be us. Like, people
I didn't even think about it that
Cowboys
way.
want to be like us. They do everything we do. And then their stupid owners, 3,562 years old, sits there and comes out and says that they're the team to beat. I mean, dude, senile. It's his birthday, by the way. 3,564 years old. Happy birthday, Jerry Jones.
I didn't even know that. I was just laughing at Shady went to Dallas camp yesterday. That joke was funny as heck. But look, I asked a question before we went live to see where the fan base is for Saturday's game. I want to ask you the same question. Who do you think gets the first sack versus the Ravens? Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith?
But just between those two guys?
Just between those two.
I'm going to say Nolan Smith. I got a feeling Nolan Smith's going to come shooting out of the gate, and he's going to come right around the edge, and they're just not going to be expecting his speed, and he's going to get sacked. I'll say Nolan Smith.
All right. Let me see. I'm actually.
Well, listen, I think Jalen Carter is going to obviously is the better talent. I mean, I like them both, but I think people.
Pass rushers normally get more options, more opportunities.
If you gave me the thing with Nolan Smith is like it seems like nobody realizes like how quick off the ball he is. Like that's all we keep hearing about camp is like that initial burst is so fast you don't expect it. And I could just see Baltimore's not game planning for the Eagles or looking for it, and I could just see him catching the guy off the tackle off guard.
I totally agree, and during the season, I think there's going to come a point where Jalen Carter is going to look so dominant. It's not just the training camp reports. He's going to look so dominant that he's going to ink, high snaps at the D tackle position. When you look at that D tackle room and Fletch, Davis, Carter, Williams, and Katavius Street, Ajoma, whoever makes the roster and all that, he's going to have some high snap counts, week 3 and on. where Nolan
Right.
Smith might be used off ball a little bit. You got a lot of edge rushers
yeah.
there. His opportunities might be less. But during this first preseason game, the way they be playing Nolan Smith, the whole practice, he be playing second team, third team reps and
I
stuff.
know.
I wouldn't put it past Nolan to put a little bug in, Desai's ear, like, yo, let me play a little bit, like a little bit more, And so I have to co-sign for the preseason game, Nolan Smith.
Preseason game, yeah.
It should be interesting, and that's gonna be just music to my music to my ears. Seeing Nolan Smith, could you imagine, like within like 2 or 3 series, one of these Philly dogs literally show you what we've been hearing via tweets, right?
Yeah.
Cowboy fans, Giant fans saying they don't even really see the guys. They just got to go by words on the screen. When we see that in this a preseason game, it's just going to be lovely.
Yeah. Oh, Dallas has those fans on Twitter will be going in damage control. Cole's Cowboy will be posting how many things. Like, they go in damage control anytime something good happens to the Eagles. Anytime they're in major damage control. So it's great. I love it. But, the thing is, man, I see there's so many things about Nolan Smith that are intriguing to me. Like, the guy runs a 4.39, right? Do you think that this guy at times can cover a tight end? Like, would you let him try to? I mean, dude, the guy is so athletic. Like, I don't think you can just use him as like, an edge rusher only. Like, I think you have to find ways to get him on the field and use him. And sometimes if that's off the ball, then so be it. You know what I mean? If you want to try to see if you could take advantage of his speed, let him like cover a tight end or something, I say do it. I say take advantage of his athleticism and find ways to use him.
Yeah, again, that's my whole thing is, would you rather him play 15 snaps all rushing the passer, or play 22 snaps where he rushed the passer 15 times and drop back 7? My thing is, if it's him dropping back or going to the bench, I want him on the field. I think he's that type of player, has that type of talent and athleticism, just like you said. And so I'm all for that as well. The thing is, if we didn't have a Reddick, if we didn't have a Sweat, if our D-line wasn't so stacked and people play inside and outside, then yeah, we would want him to be more. We're not saying that we think he could be as talented as his pass rushing than his off ball, but I think that this kid is too talented. When you have a guy like that, you don't take him off the field, you try to get him on the field. And I think Desai has been playing all training camp. Put this guy here, put that guy here. Desai looks like he's really trying to play chess instead of checkers with his weapons.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the right way to do it. Now, if Jonathan Gannon was there, forget about it. We'd be in trouble. We'd be in trouble.
Yeah. I'm trying to forget about that name. That name just makes me mad.
Well, let me tell you, dude, I'm so pissed about that whole thing, because do you remember when the night of the draft, it was like they had the night of the draft and there was this little announcement that the Eagles were moving up 30-something picks. I forget what it was. And they had settled some beef.
They tried to sweep it under the rug.
They did. Nobody even knew what they were talking about. I still think to this day, the NFL told the Eagles to shut up about it. Like, I think it was a bigger deal than they let on. I think it was a huge thing, and the NFL totally covered it up. I really believe that.
I'm not the biggest conspiracy guy, but yes, I agree. Especially how Howie Roseman had to be like, shush, shush. I think I forgot who it was. Which? It
was Pro Football Talk. Mike Florio.
Yeah, what's his name?
Mike Florio. Mike Florio. Yeah.
He got snippy. Like, I can't tell you. Like, I physically can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And they waited till the draft began. They waited right till then when nobody was focusing on it.
The biggest off-season event.
That was a big deal. They didn't want, because now they're saying that there's potential lawsuits coming. You realize, because people can actually sue, because if they broke the rules and screwed up with things, people who bet the Eagles actually have some sort of case because the NFL interfered with it. So I think it's a bigger deal than they let on, and they tried to sweep it under the rug. That's the kind of guy Jonathan Gannon was, and I can't stand him.
I agree. Shout out to my man Dontello Dragon with the $2 super chat. Look at the profile pic, number 88, Dallas Goedert and Kelly Green.
That's the one I have to get. I always wanted growing up. I wanted an '88 Keith Jackson jersey when Keith Jackson was with us, and I never got it. He left before that, and I think Goddard I'm gonna have to get just for that '88.
Just for that 88.
That looks beautiful. Yeah, that looks beautiful.
Shout out to him. He said only thing Dak can do is sell mattresses. Shout out to Eagles Uncut 2.0 with the $2 super chat. Philly Mike, Philly 500, the GOAT. Go Birds.
What's up, man?
Shout out to you. But yeah, I totally agree on that JG thing. It's like so frustrating. And to really do it during the biggest event in the offseason just shows what they were really up to, right? They didn't do it before it. They didn't do it after it. They did it in the middle. They tried to just get it where nobody was really paying attention everybody was focused.
Nobody even knew that there was even a situation with tampering. Like nobody had even known anything. Nobody knew anything. It just came out because we were like, I was streaming. And I'm like, what is going on here? What did they make a trade? No, why are we getting, what happened? Like nobody knew. I don't think they gave us enough. Like I think we should at least got a first round pick out of that. At least, or like let's pick one player off your roster right now, you know.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Buddha Baker gots to go.
Hey, come on, Buddha Baker.
Come on, Buddha. Shout out to Bobby with the $2 super chat. Dak will never see a Super Bowl. He can see D's.
No.
Cha-ching. Hey, I'm with you with never seeing a Super Bowl.
He's not.
Let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen as it pertains to like the difference between last year and this year offensively play calling, right? I know a lot of people comment on my videos talking about that. I haven't really talked too much about it in video form. I just said I believe in, Brian Johnson. He talked a little bit about calling plays and how he did it in college and all that. Just this week, I think early in the week, he had a press conference talking about that. We see all the players performing, Jalen Carter going out, Nolan Smith, ups and downs with these guys. We talked about that a lot. I do want to get your take on Brian Johnson, though, like him being a play caller. I know Desai's the upgrade over Jonathan Gannon because it is what it is. But I think, how did you feel about Steichen? And do you think it's going to be a big difference and all that?
I like Steichen. I thought he did a great job. But I think the fact that you still have Brian Johnson was there from the moment, Sirianni was hired. So he's been there. And then Nick Sirianni is still offensive-minded coach. So I'm not really worried about it. I think, of course, it'll be a little different. But, and then Jalen Hurts another year. I'm not really worried about it. I mean, we'll see what he is like a play caller, how aggressive he is. But as of right now, I think we'll be okay. I think where the offense is really going to be different is DeAndre Swift. I think he changes the offense. Like I think, obviously, if you look at what the Eagles have been doing in camp, obviously they want to make an effort to use the running back out of the backfield in the passing game. This gives you a whole nother element to your offense that we did not use. We did not use that at all. And you figure teams are going to blitz Jalen Hurts a lot more this year. They're going to try to make him have to throw it. And if you can now use a running back out of the backfield, and this was wide open last year. I can't tell you how many games I streamed, and I'm like, dude, why don't you run a running back screen? It's 30 yards of empty space if you just run a screen to the running back. And they didn't do it. I think this year you're going to see a lot more of that. So I think the running back is going to be a lot more involved in the offense. And I do think it's going to add another dimension to this offense. And I think it'll make them even better. So I think they're going to be even better than they were a year ago.
Yeah, that's my belief. Pretty much, this is why I believe in Brian Johnson, because it was a group. They collaborated on what the plays were that game for that situation and blah blah. Shane Steichen called it, but he was in communication with Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson. I feel like they're making a huge focal point on check downs and hot routes and getting the ball to your running back and utilizing them in the passing game and moving your running back around like a chess piece, motion to the outside, motion inside. We heard that from a bunch of different beat reporters, and a couple of times they said, like, I think especially Elliott Shore-Parks, because he likes to look at the negative as much as possible. He's like, the Eagles offense is being more dink and dunk than last year.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Last year, our check down rate was the lowest in the NFL. 3.4% of the time Jalen Hurts checked it down.
Yeah.
We had a lot of big plays. The big plays are still going to be there, and they're going to be more open if we're dinking and dunking. And again, the dinking and dunking with these guys are yards after the catch worthy. And I totally agree. Every time a screen was ran last year, it was Dallas Goedert. It was a tight end screen.
Or
no
receiver,
running back.
Yeah. But if you ran a running back, a little screen, there was just a lot of space. And the other thing, is they've actually been, people have been saying there've been times where they're lining up Goddard and DeAndre Swift both out wide on one side. I think that's very interesting. So, the big plays are going to be there. I think if you look how they used what's his face, if you look how they used Smitty last year, early on in the year, it seemed like everything was a short route. At the end of the year, he was intermediate to deep, and that's when his yards really shot up. So I think they know how to use him better. I think obviously you get what you get in AJ Brown. I just think if you add the element of a running back who can catch out of the backfield, how do you stop it? Like you got Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Goddard. Now you have the ability for Jalen Hurts to run, and you're going to have to at the same time watch the running back out of the backfield. I don't think you can do it all. So to me, it's the perfect wrinkle to add to this offense to really take it to another level.
The only missing piece from this offense last year, right? We were top 2, top 3 offense in the NFL. The only piece that was missing. And again, teams started to play little quarters on us, dropping back because they knew we were going to go deep. And the only element that was short was Jalen Hurts scrambling. But now you just threw another wrinkle in it. I wanted to say, DeAndre Swift, though, when you talked about that would be deadly. You have one of the best blocking tight ends. I think the only blocking tight end that's better than Goddard, like blocking and receiving, is probably Kittle. Goddard don't get enough credit for what he does in the run game and blocking. So having Swift outride with number 88 is going to be pretty deadly, to say the least.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I cannot
Alex said, Philly Mike at 500. What's up? Who do you predict will have the most sacks for the Eagles, and how many? Fly, Eagles, fly.
I say Hassan Reddick, 17. Say Reddick was 17.
It's hard to pick Reddick. Although,
Reddick
look,
is still good.
I am really, really interested in Josh Sweat. Like I can't fully pick him over Reddick, but the man, like Jordan, the man's been working, and that's one of the low key reports that I've seen kind of go to the wayside a lot of the times. Josh T is like the only one talking about Josh Sweat, but he says like every day in camp he makes another play, but it's not as interesting to get the clicks, at least from the beat writers in the articles, when you see Josh Sweat great camp compared to the guys we have no film on. That being said, I gotta go Reddick too. And what do you have? 16 to end the season? 16. I think it's 19 total.
Yeah. He had 16, 19 total. But the thing is, in the playoffs, man, I mean, he destroyed the Niners in the playoffs single-handedly. But if you go back and look at that Giants game too, I mean, Reddick was all over the place. I thought Reddick could have won. Like, if they gave an MVP for playoffs, like leading up to the Super Bowl, Reddick would have won it. Reddick was dominating in the playoffs last year. So I think I have to stick with Reddick. I do. I mean,
you said 17.
You have to. I got 17. Yeah, I think he has 17 sacks.
I like Reddick with a cool. It's hard because, I don't want to just say like 20 or nothing like that because that's tough. 17, 18 sounds right. And again, it's hard to go back to back 16 plus both years because teams are going to they might game plan for him a little bit more. It's going to be hard to do that though with the D line on the side of him. However, I think Hassan Reddick really didn't start coming. Like,
Yeah.
there was a point from like week 8 and on where he got like a sack every game. You know what I mean? So like,
Well,
I
yeah.
think he's going to come with that same fire all season long now, because our defensive line went crazy against Carson Wentz and the Commanders, right?
Yeah.
But week 1 and 2, week 4, 5, and 6, like we didn't start going hard until like the Jags game and on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think early on in the year they were using Reddick in coverage and stuff way more than rushing him. They started rushing him more at the end of the year, and it started to pay off. This is a guy that has had double-digit sacks 3 straight years on 3 different teams. Okay, people like overlook that. That is such a hard thing to do, and I don't care if those other teams have talented players around them. It's hard to fit and mesh with 3 different teams 3 years in a row and go out there and perform the way he has. So, I mean, now you're giving him another year with the same guys. I think Reddick's going to have another giant year. I do. Yeah. But I'll tell you this, Mike. I'll say this. I think the key to the defense being not just good but elite, the guy I think is going to make the difference is Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis takes this defense, in my opinion, to a whole nother level. If we get what he's supposed to be, it's a whole nother level.
As a run stopper, or you mean just a freak of nature?
It completely changes. No, taking the defense from being not just a good defense to a nasty top defense in the league. Like, I think he takes you to another level. If Jordan Davis is what a first-round pick we think we got, not just as a run stopper, but just as a guy who goes on, eats double teams, takes and frees up the guys around him, and can get maybe he gets 5 sacks, okay? But he's out there and he's in shape, and he's wearing down those offensive linemen, and you're freeing up Jalen Carter one-on-ones and Fletcher Cox one-on-ones. I think if he's productive and he's good, you're gonna go from a really good defense to something different, man. Something different.
Yeah, you're right. Because like I'm saying, I think teams are gonna say, "Dang, we got to start putting respect on Reddick's name. Let's start double teaming him." Well, how can you do that if we get the first round Jordan Davis? If you get Jalen Carter doing what he's being reported doing, Nolan Smith being paired up with Hassan Reddick on the same side, how Desai did it with Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn in Chicago. Right. Josh Sweat eating Fletch, the rotation being so fresh, Milton and all these guys, BG. So it's going to be very difficult. And again, pending Jordan Davis is who we think he is, and all reports sound good. And they're not like good. Last year. You can tell they were sugarcoating his conditioning compared to this year, right?
Horrible.
They were definitely sugarcoating it.
I mean, I used to make jokes about it. Like, he'd be sucking air and everybody would be getting pulled in because he was so massive, but he was like out of breath after like 2 plays. And he still did a great job against the run. But if you get him and he's a force and he's in shape and he can be down 3 downs if need be, and he's getting pressure, and you say, you know what, we're going to try to double team Jalen Carter on this play, and he can get free and get a sack. Maybe he doesn't need 10 sacks. If he gets 5 sacks, we're in. But also what he could do to help the linebackers and free up some of those linebackers. I just think Jordan Davis, if he is what we think he is, and we already know what we got with everybody else, I think he takes his defense to a whole nother level. And if he's just what he was last year, it'll still be a really good defense. But Jordan Davis has the ability, I think, to make this defense something that people weren't prepared for.
I like it. I like it. A shout out to Yeet with the $10 super chat. Everybody talking about our departures, but won't mention our best move in the offseason was JG leaving. That was huge. No blame by the media was put on Gannon, and it blows my mind. Yeah, I think a lot of people let him just skate right up on out of Philly. I was like, well, they just see what he did statistically and blah blah blah. You heard the lie he said to Arizona. Like, he said, like, oh yeah, he bulletined like four different things, and all of them were lies. Like, we were when we were 9-0, they were mad at me. Never was 9-0. When we led the league in sacks by week 10, we didn't lead it at that point. You know, like everything he was saying was just complete lies. I totally agree with you.
And you know why he was saying all that shit? Because he knew that the Eagles and nobody could say anything back because the NFL was trying to cover up all that shit. So the Eagles weren't going to say anything. And he went and he started running his mouth. I think that's what he did. Seriously. Like, I think that was such a bigger deal than they let on. I really do.
Yeah. Real quick, shout out to everybody in the chat. We almost got 630 in the chat, 615 in the chat. Hit the like button wherever you're hit the like button. It's free, it's easy, it don't cost a thing, and it's greatly appreciated. If for some reason you're not subscribed to this Denzel Washington looking guy, I saw the YouTube short, Merrill Reese / Denzel Washington. I liked it. That was a cool one.
Yeah.
And I like your how trying to sound like Merrill Reese. I can't even say the word.
It's so bad. It's actually good. It's so bad. Yeah. It's actually good. Yeah. That's how I look at it.
I love it.
I sit there and I'll do this like the whole week before the season starts. I'll just walk around the house going to the 10, to the 25. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'll be in the shower making calls, dude. Like, it's crazy, dude.
Hey, Merrill Reese. Still, there was a video on Twitter today. I do want to ask you about one more position before we get out of here. There was a video today, though, of Merrill Reese reading like Eagles clips, but they put in like the new slang words, and he was saying them. He was saying stuff like low key, like lit, like vibing. He was saying stuff like I can't think of all the words now. Like bull, like it was a bunch of stuff he was saying, and it was hilarious. And then when he was done, they asked him, "Did you know any of them words?" And he was like, "Not one."
Dude, I don't know.
But he was doing it in his Merrill Reese announcing voice, like Jalen Hurts was just looking so lit out there. It was crazy.
Jalen Hurts looking lit.
Yeah. The running back position, though, the reports that I've gotten, right? Like, Kenny G had a nice run, Swift had a nice run, Rashad Penny returning kicks a little bit. Where are you at with like, who do you think the Eagles early on in the season? I don't even think preseason is going to show us. Like, I think it's going to be a complete mystery of carries per running back come week 1. But like, where are you at with Swift, Kenny G, Penny, Boston, and the fact that Sirianni just keeps pumping up Trey Sermon's name? You can't keep all of them one. And what does your rotation look like? What do you think?
I think early on, I think you're going to see more of like a rotation. I think as the season goes on, I honestly think Swift will emerge as your number one back. I think he'll be your number one guy. The question becomes Rashad Penny, because look, I was watching Trey Sermon, and I've been watching any highlight I could see of him. He looks like Jay Ajayi to me. Like he's a big back. Like, what if he goes out and he just kills it? Because I think he's going to get a lot of carries
in preseason.
I think preseason he ends up with most of the carries. So let's say he goes out and he kills it, and he does such a great job, they can't get rid of him. They just can't do it. Are they going to keep 5 running backs? Because if they don't keep 5 running backs and they go with 4, I think they cut Trey Sermon. I mean, not Trey Sermon. I think they cut Rashad Penny. I don't think they're going to cut Gainwell, and I don't know. I think they trust Boston too much in certain situations, and you always need him for the Giants. So if you only kept 4,
dude,
right?
The way you said it's so serious.
But it's true. It's true. As soon as he plays the Giants, the guy has a big game. But I'm saying, like, if let's just say, for argument's sake, they're only keeping 4, and Trey Sermon was lights out, who do they cut? And I think it's Penny. I really think it would be Penny. So I think that would be like my surprise cut if it's possible. Now, I don't know how Penny's going to do. I don't know. But I know that Sermon, if he is what you said, like if Nick Sirianni keeps pumping up, if he goes out there and he's killing it, how do you cut the guy? You're going to have to either keep 5 running backs or you're going to have to cut one. I don't think they're going to cut. I think they trust Boston. I can't see them cutting Gainwell. Maybe they trade Gainwell, but Rashad Penny's not making any money, and he's only on a 1-year deal. So they might trade him. I think he may be the odd man out. I'm just saying, if they keep 4 and Sermon was lights out. But we've also seen, and I'll say this, we've also seen it where a guy comes in and he's fantastic in preseason. And you're like, man, that guy's earned a spot. And they still cut him anyways. He had no chance for long. So we don't know. But
yeah, it's very interesting. And every time I read like the negative side of the running back thing, like there's no real negatives on Swift and Gainwell. It's not really negative about Rashad Penny, like actual play, but it's like, I think out of all the running backs, including Boston Scott, I don't really know about Trey Sermon. He don't get much reps with first team. And it's like,
yeah. Well, you know what?
It's weird.
But the thing is, here's the thing. Like, because I've been hearing that Swift is getting the majority of the first team reps, and like everybody's like, well, he's clearly the number 1 guy. But I also think it's like what they're trying to do with adding a passing game with the running backs. Mm-hmm. You're going to use Swift in that mostly, right? So you're going to get him a lot of work in training camp. The other running backs, I kind of think you don't really know till they're hitting, till they're full contact hitting. So until Rashad Penny gets out there in the field and can take some carries, you don't really know because obviously Swift, they have Swift's big plan. They got big plans for DeAndre Swift in the passing game especially. So you're going to see a lot of work from him during camp and stuff like that. But until we see hitting, we don't really know. I don't hear anything about Penny at all. Nobody says, well, Penny had a great day. I don't hear anything. I heard that he's done a couple kickoff stuff, but what are you going to hear? They're not tackling. So, I think that's a big reason why.
Yeah, it's so like, and then because Kenneth Gainwell, like that factor is, I think, a really big factor to me because the Eagles showed with Miles Sanders here the confidence in Kenny G, right? And they were just real. I mean, you could say the confidence level went down when they brought in Rashad Penny, but they brought in Rashad Penny because maybe Gainwell's body won't be able to do it all, and it's a low risk, high reward situation. You didn't know at that point that Swift would be available. When you brought Rashad Penny in, you ain't know Swift was going to be available. And so the Lions went out and got Gibbs from Alabama. Made Swift pretty much, or they signed somebody and drafted Gibbs, which made Swift expendable. It's that is a dynamic that I think people overlook. I think we're good regardless. We set ourselves up in a situation where we got guys that we're all confident in, so that the low guy off the pole. Because I'm like you, I do believe there's something out of Trey Sermon. I liked him. I wanted to draft him back when he was coming out of Oklahoma. This is his first offseason. You never know if he gets 13 carries for $132 and 2 touchdowns against one of these preseason games. That's gonna make it a little more tougher.
I think he's gonna have the majority of the carries. Like who else? Him or Brooks are gonna have the most carries.
And see, Penny's the guy that he's injury prone. That's been his biggest thing. So you don't want to overuse him in preseason. Like you got to just we know what he did when he was healthy.
Yeah,
we're not gonna overwork him, right? It's tough.
I think they're gonna treat. I think they treat DeAndre Swift. I think they treat DeAndre Swift, Gainwell, and Penny all as semi-starters going into the first preseason game. So I think you're going to see Boston Scott get carries in the first half, and then I think the second half is going to be pretty much all Sermon. And then the next game it may be Sermon for 3 quarters. Like I think at the end of the preseason, Sermon will lead the team in carries.
Yeah, I think he's going to have one of them games where he just makes the fan base say, "Oh, we're going to say we got to keep him.
Got to keep him. Yeah, we got to keep him. What do we do? It will happen. It will happen. It will. You can see it coming a mile away."
Facts. With that being said, we are an hour and 9 minutes in. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to Philly 500 for coming through. Appreciate it. Like I said, I wanted to get you back on when there was some good stuff to talk about. the season is really approaching, and
I'm ready.
hopefully what we can do is we can, as the community, try to get like a nice Eagles round table,
Yeah, we need to get a giant round table. That would be great.
Quarterly, every 6, 7, 8 weeks, 2 times a year or something like that. It'd be fun. I just love talking birds at the end of the day. And
I think
it's always good to get the different opinions from everybody, including the chat. The chat be making me think about some stuff long and hard. That's why I really tell them to let me know what you think about this video, because like there'll be times where I'll be reading these comments like, yo, why didn't I ever think about it? And like, if I was thinking of safety, I didn't even think about Jeremy Chin as a possible candidate. You know what I mean? Just, so it's always interesting to just talk birds, and when you're one of the best teams in the NFL, everybody wants to take a shot at you. Everybody wants to join with you. And we got the GM that makes everything interesting. There's never a dull moment as an Eagle fan, content creator, anything like that.
No, and that's why the Cowboy fans are so jealous. That's why they're losing their minds right now as we speak. Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. We definitely need to do some roundtables. I think that'll be a great idea. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With that being said, you heard Philly 500 when I asked him about the community post. Nolan Smith gets the first sack. Not saying Jalen Carter won't wreak havoc in this game, but he got Smith getting the first sack. We're going to see how that plays out on Saturday. Of course, he will be streaming it. Until next time, y'all know what time it is. We out.
Peace.